wish my voice was sounding better, but this is what we're working with. I had a cold last week. I'm feeling much better. My voice is still playing catch up. Hopefully the coffee is gonna help. The decaf coffee, if you've been following along on Instagram, you know that I've recently cut out caffeine, among other things, but if you want to know that kind of personal stuff, you gotta watch my stories. You gotta be on Instagram. All right, what are we talking about today? 6. All things 6. I'm a 3-6 profile. I'm a 6th line design or form or body. Now, as far as profile lines go, in order for you to have a 6 in your profile, you are either going to be a 3-6, like me, or a 4-6. Both of those have the 6 in the design side. Or we're gonna flip it. If you've got the 6 on the personality side, you're either a 6-2 or a 6-3. Now, depending on if you were doing the math along there, out of all of the 12 different profile configurations you can have, 4 of them have 6 lines. That means 30% of the options are gonna be 6 lines. Does that mean that 30% of humanity is a 6 line? Not necessarily. This honestly isn't just about profile though. This is about the 6. And part of the reason why I'm doing the 6 is so that I can really drill in the importance of keynoting and one of the primary patterns that I love in human design, which is that certain numbers maintain certain keynotes. So right now we're doing 6. If you are a 6th profile line, you're what we call a role model, and you're going to live your life in a 3-part phase. There's something kind of funky about being a role model, about being a 6th line. There's something that happens to the 6th line that doesn't happen to any of the other lines. The 6, because it lives this 3-part life, these 3 phases of life, the first phase isn't really a 6th line phase. The first phase is a 3rd line phase. There is a maturing or evolution that kind of has to happen for the 6th line. No 6th line is born a role model. All of us have to go through this really uncomfortable quasi-3 phase where we have to deal with a lot of trial and error. Now, this phase lasts up until Saturn return. For most of us, that's 29. We're talking 29, 30, 28. There's no exact moment you become a role model or go up on the roof. Everybody's date's a little bit different, so look up your Saturn return. This is going to give you a bit of a clue if you're a 6th line. But we can ballpark this and make it easier. We can say 0 to 30 is the first phase, 30 to 50 is the second phase, and 50 until you kick the bucket is your last phase. In this moment, I'm 34. I've had a birthday since the last recording. Okay, at 34, it's assumed I've been on the roof for about 4 years. What's the point of being on the roof? Why do we go up here? Well, if we already acknowledge that the first 30 years was a bit of a dumpster fire, as in 3rd line trial and error phase, you get 20 years after that to take a little bit of respite, to take some processing time, to gain some awareness. It's what we call going up on the roof. It's like you kind of separate from the first part of your life. You detach, you become more aloof. Those are 2 very important 6th line keynotes, detached, aloof. You go up on the roof. Oh God, I'm not meaning this to rhyme. God. You go up on the roof and you process all the trouble and mayhem you got up to for the first 30 years. You really think about how much that hurt and how much you don't want to do it again. Now, the kicker is, when you hit 50, you have to come off the roof. You have to get back down. You have to join with everybody else again. That means that over those last 20 years that you were up on the roof, you were supposed to process everything that you went through so that you don't have to try anymore, so that you don't have to trial and error again. Because that 3rd line phase comes with a little bit of resiliency and it doesn't last. Once you're out of the 3rd line phase, you don't keep that resiliency. You go up on the roof where hopefully you're a little bit safer, but at 50, when you come back down, when you really step into your role as the role model, this is when the 6th line really becomes the role model. But it's not a guarantee. You only get to become a role model if you have actually integrated everything from before and you're not going to mess up the way that you did, because you don't have the same kind of resiliency anymore. If you mess up now, it's gonna hurt a lot more. Now, I started by acknowledging that there were 4 different profile configurations that had 6 lines. 2 of them had the 6th line in the design, and 2 of them had the 6th line, oh frick, I always forget these are backwards, had them in the personality. Okay, so what's the difference between being a 6th line personality and a 6th line body? Big difference. Physical resiliency, for one. When you have a 6th line body like I do, part of what I have to remember is that my body was more resilient in its first 30 years, in its first phase. But now that I'm up on the roof, I don't have that same kind of 3rd line protection to my physical form. I think there's definitely a misconception, and honestly, it's a labeling problem. And again, bear with the voice. You know, on one hand, I'm hating the voice. On the other hand, I'm very like Phoebe Friends and smelly cat, you know? Maybe this is my sexy singer voice. Who knows? I don't think so, personally. I swallowed a frog. Now, because the 6th line is automatically just referred to as the role model, it definitely creates a misconception that you're born a role model. You're not. We're not. We have to become role models. And it's not just something that happens with age, and it's not even something that happens with experience. It's something that happens from processing, understanding, and integrating your experiences enough that you know what to do and what not to do in the future and how to be a living example of that. Now, I'm also going to give a little bit of grace, I think, to what I just said there, because well, we are not the role model the way that we typically perceive a role model to be until we're significantly older. What are the qualities of the 6 that feel like an example, like a leader? What is exemplary is the word that wants to come out. There is something that the 6 has at all parts of its life that does make it a role model that you don't quite know how to describe yet. And let me try my best to describe it for you. Also, that's such a me thing to say. I'm a 3rd line with a defined ego, with the gate of the egoist, the gate of the best. Let me try my best channel of surrender to explain this to you. What is it about the 6th line that always has people not necessarily looking up to it, but looking towards it? And it's the mutative quality. All 6 lines are deeply mutative. Now, you can go back and watch a video on circuitry, because I'm not going to take all the time to explain it here, but individual circuitry is mutative. It's empowering. I've also spoken about the 6th color motivation as being individual in nature and very mutative. Now, that is a quality of the 6. In the beginning of the video, I acknowledged that it wasn't just going to be about profile lines. It's also about color, and it's also about tone. We have the numbers 1 to 6, the hexagram, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 is the top of the hexagram. Now, whether you're going from lines, colors, or tones, you're dealing with a 1 to 6, where the 6 is the top. So when we're talking about things like on the roof, it's very easy to visualize the 6th line sitting on the top of the hexagram, sitting at the top of the numbers. And it's not like it's looking down on them in like a judgment kind of way. Actually, judgment is a 5th tone, not a 6th tone. The 6th tone is acceptance. Well, from the mind side, the 6th tone, the sense, is going to be acceptance sense. If you're on the body side, if we're in PHS, if we're in determination, you're going to have 6th tone being touch cognition. So touch cognition on one side and acceptance sense on the other side. Both of these are 6th tone. 6th color on the body side is going to be direct or indirect light determination. Sixth color on the mind side, man, I'm always doing these backwards. Sixth color on the mind side is innocence motivation. Just in that, I spat out a whole bunch of keynotes associated with the 6, and that is the core point of this video. Let's hit everything to do with a 6, okay? So we had touch, direct and indirect light. We had innocence and acceptance sense. Now, if I'm gonna go lower, if I'm gonna go to the nodal level, on the design side, a 6th is going to be for environment, and it's gonna be shores. It's either gonna be natural or artificial shores. If we go over to the personality side with the nodes, then what we're looking at is view perspective. And if we're looking at a 6th, then we're looking at personal view. So on the personality side, I'm dealing with keynotes of personal view, acceptance sense, innocence motivation, role model. And again, we also had those keynotes of detach, aloof. Now, the shore is a really great way to anchor this in because all of these keynotes also have to work for the shore. The shore's environment is where you are detached, separated, borderline inaccessible. That's kind of the point. You are away from everyone. You're at your own place, doing your own kind of thing, but you can also see. It's very much about the view and what is being observed. Okay, now let's give a more practical example of how the 6 is a living example, a living inspiration, a living role model. How does the 6 influence or provide leadership in a role model type way without actually getting involved? Now, I'm going to acknowledge transference for a second, or opposites. Let's call it opposites. The opposite of the 6 is going to be the 3. The transference from the 6 is going to be to the 3. Innocence as a 6th color motivation will transfer to desire motivation. Personal view will transfer to power view. The 6 goes to the 3. Now I want you to think about some of the things associated with the 3. There's a trial and error. There's desire. There's power. There's a very involved type of leadership. It says, I desire you to go here. I want this for you. Whereas the 6 is very much about self-leadership. I want this for me. I take myself here. I live my life for me. I'm an observer of others. I'm not necessarily getting involved. So how do I really act as the role model? Or how do I really, not act, that was a poor choice of word. How do I become? How am I seen as? What makes me a role model? What makes any 6 a role model? And we're gonna go back into the sense of empowerment and mutation. Now I have a lot of clients who are 6th lines, who are role models. And when I'm trying to explain to them that they are being role models without even realizing it, I usually talk about how they have empowered themselves in some way and somebody else has been able to witness that. I think fashion is a very, very, very easy way to talk about this. Let's say, let's say maybe you like my velvet outfit, but you're thinking to yourself, I don't know if I could wear that. I don't know if that, you know? Or I like to give an example of like, you know, you're walking down the street and you got this bomb-ass red leather jacket on. And, you know, a young girl who's kind of shy, doesn't have a lot of confidence, maybe doesn't know what her style is yet, she sees you just rocking whatever it is that you're wearing and you're confident and you're loving it and you're wearing the jacket because you fucking love it, because you feel great in it, because you feel empowered in it. When that person is able to observe you and get some of that self-empowerment, they think, they can wear that, I could wear that. And I'm not saying that they're gonna go buy the exact same jacket or the same outfit or whatever, but the sense of confidence and like, look at them wearing what they want to wear. That's awesome. I can do that too. That's what empowerment is. So the 6 is being the living role model, but the kicker is, it's kind of like as long as it's not trying to be. Try belongs to the 3. There's also a chance you've heard me talk about the 3-6 opposites and the trying and the blah 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 enough to be like, Sam, aren't you a 3-6? Yeah, I'm a 3-6. There's some serious fuckery involved in that, especially up until I turned 30. Because the first phase of the 6th line life is lived as a 3rd line, which means for the first 30 years of my life, I live my life like a 3-3. We're talking dumpster fire on steroids. And as I acknowledge, the first 30 years is when you have a resiliency. If the 6 is on your design side, I had a stronger resiliency for the first 30 years in my physical body. It's gone. I don't have that anymore. My body, you know, it's starting to give me some issues. In particular, I cannot maintain a fake sacral life anymore. I can't be a pretenderator anymore. It absolutely kills me. I just took a couple weeks to recover from something. It sucked. It really sucked. It is not as easy for me to deal with physical things as it was in the beginning. I recently got an ADHD diagnosis. I didn't get an ADHD diagnosis until I was 33, which has finally helped me sort out the other things that I need support with. I actually need support for my physical body now that I'm in the on the roof phase of my life. I'm in my on the roof phase. Now there is a aspect of the 6 that simultaneously is a bit of a dark side and also one of its greatest assets. And this is the concept of perfectionism. One of the keynotes for the 6 is administrator. Part of what is to be understood about that is that there is this sense of overseeing. Overseeing is actually that's a really great descriptive word for the 6. Always observing, always looking, always witnessing, okay? Overseeing things, but also recognizing that the 6 is technically the end of the line. As in the 6 is kind of feeling like, this is the last time we have to get it right. This is our last ditch effort to perfect this thing. So in many ways, it is up to the 6 to create the most perfect expression of something. And yet it can also be a negative, where there can be too much emphasis on the perfection of something, because ultimately nothing is ever perfect and it's an unreasonable standard, but it's something nice to aim for. Now, I want to create a bit of a visual about like an actual structure of the hexagram. See these 6 lines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now this top line, let's just assume there is a person sitting on top, like they're literally sitting on a cliff or sitting on a roof or sitting on a whatever, and they're looking out. What are they really looking out for? And this is where the shores environment integrates things all over again, because whether it's natural shores or artificial shores, what we're acknowledging is that there is a boundary line. There is a place of separation. If you are shores environment, one of the ways that you can adapt your home to be more suited to you is to not have things displayed above waist height. And what that creates is that line of separation where there's a busyness down here and a clarity up here, a bigger, more expansive view. It's about getting that big perspective, right? Now, when the 6 is looking for that boundary line, ultimately what is on the other side of it is the 1. Now, if you think about any gate in the body graph that has a 6th line attached to it, there's an attitude component to this, in that the 6 isn't really that concerned with the other 5 lines below it. The 6 is not necessarily concerned with the past. It's more concerned with what's coming, as in, I don't care so much about yesterday. I care that the sun is going to rise tomorrow. I care that I can see the horizon and know that tomorrow is a new day. And that's what the 1 is. You know, the 6 is looking for the transition over into the first line of the next gate. All right, I hit on profile, I hit on keynotes, I hit on environment, I hit determination, I hit motivation, view, perspective, sense, cognition. I think we're doing, look at me giving more than me credit. I think I'm doing great. I think I did good enough. This is as close to perfection as I really care to aim for. I think I'm done.